What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. And today we're talking the January 30th, 2021 edition of Talking Smack. I have said this before, I will say it again. Talking Smack is my new favorite weekly show here on the network. And I know that's not saying a lot, because I know Raw Talk and Talking Smack, I believe, are the only two weekly shows they have on the network. But every weekend they do the occasional documentary like the Pat Patterson one, which was great. Chronicles, Untold, Day Ofs, 24s, you name it, they do it. Talking Smack, though, just might be the most underrated show on the WWE Network. I know it wasn't when it first started 5 years ago. And then they canceled it. And they brought it back last summer. And people were watching it at the beginning when The Miz was on there, kind of going back and forth with Big E, which was great. They've gone through a number of different co-hosts for Kayla. It went from The Miz, I think, to then Sami Zayn, now Paul Heyman. They've all been great for different reasons. I was not sold on Paul Heyman in this role initially, but in the last, I would say, 2 months alone, this guy has been absolute fucking money. This was probably one of, if not the best episode of Talking Smack they've done yet. And that's saying a lot. This was a really, really good episode. Maybe not the best, but it was still a damn good episode. So Kayla's recapping what she said was a very newsworthy episode of SmackDown, which I don't know if I would say that, but it was enjoyable for the most part. So she's recapping Braun Strowman's return and Bryan versus AJ, all the Raw superstars showing up, and Reigns and Owens going at it verbally, Bianca Belair beating Bayley, and everything else that happened on the show. Heyman says he doesn't care. He doesn't care what happened on SmackDown. He's not in the SmackDown business. He's not in the Raw business. He's not in the NXT business. He's not even in the WWE business. He is in the Roman Reigns business. And he goes on this whole spiel and whatever, and he says that regardless of who wins the Royal Rumble, they would be stupid to not choose to face Roman Reigns, because with Roman Reigns, you are guaranteed the main event of WrestleMania. I mean, usually I would say if it was a one-night WrestleMania, I would say that, and he will be, I would have to assume, Roman Reigns, that is, be the main event of one of the two nights. Now, they have 2 nights of WrestleMania. I would have both world title matches go off the air for both nights. I know last year they had the Boneyard match, which was the right call over Braun and Goldberg, but, you know, bearing any last-minute changes, it should be both world title matches in the main event, at least in my opinion. So anyway, the first guest they welcome on is Daniel Bryan. He's been on here a bunch. Talking Smack was his show, along with Renee Young 5 years ago. And now he's killing it not just as a host, he's not a host anymore, but rather as a guest. So he comes on, promotes his new shirt, which I guess helps out the environment, which is cool. And he calls Paul Heyman a genius, but he also asks him a question. He says, at any point, now as they wind down my career, I would like to know, was there ever any point where you thought I was the best? Heyman said yes and no. He doesn't think he's the best right now. He was worried that there were points where he either would be the best or he thought he was the best, because that was when he would be at his most dangerous, and that was when he would be the biggest threat. Heyman now worries that he could still be the best, but right now Roman Reigns is the best. And he also thinks that if Bryan gets that one more shot, one more taste of WrestleMania main event glory, that he'll want it again and again and again. As he winds down his career, he says he's almost done, which he probably is. I take him at his word. It's Daniel Bryan we're talking about here. He said he would wrestle again, and he did. And if he says he's retiring soon, then I believe him that he's retiring soon. But if he tastes that WrestleMania glory one more time, then he'll want it again and again and again. That's what Heyman fears. And Bryan says, listen, I loved wrestling at the Performance Center in front of nobody but just us, because it was all about the wrestling. I don't care about the adulation from the audience. He loves the fans. He doesn't care about really feeding off of them or not even really doing it for them. It's all about the wrestling for him. And Roman Reigns just isn't a good wrestler. He's not as good of a wrestler as Daniel Bryan is. He doesn't wrestle the same way that Daniel Bryan does. He even recalls the 2015 Royal Rumble match 6 years ago, where everyone wanted him to win. He got chucked in 2 minutes, though. He was an afterthought in that Rumble. He was an afterthought in that Royal Rumble match. But it was Roman Reigns who won instead, and everyone booed him. And I love that they brought that up. Because it should be Bryan and Roman at WrestleMania for that reason alone. It shouldn't be anyone else but Bryan. I mean, maybe Edge. I feel like the Bryan story just writes it fucking self. And he mentioned it right there, which made me really happy. But yeah, he said Roman Reigns is not the wrestler that Daniel Bryan is. And he puts his heart out there, unlike Roman Reigns. And his willingness, he loves this business, and that's apparent. But it's also his willingness to not wrestle shows how much he loves his family. And then he goes into kind of comedy mode at that point. He talks about training with Otis and Chad Gable. And he was awesome in serious mode, and then he's awesome in comedy mode too. Bryan can do it fucking all. When he's a delusional heel, he's great. When he's the underdog babyface, he's great. When he's a comedy character, he's great. Bryan is a rare breed that we are really going to miss when he can't go anymore. And we already missed him when he was retired for 2 years. We're going to miss him even more when he's officially done for good. And he doesn't come back. Maybe he does for the occasional one-off, I don't know. As a full-time competitor, though, it seems like he's nearing the end of his rope. But anyway, so he talks about training with Otis and Gable, and he's learning to thrust his hips better, and they do the whole thrusting hips motion, and Otis does it to Heyman. It's just comedy gold. He's like, I'm going to toss off all the men. That's what he says. I'm going to toss off all the men. I'm going to thrust my hips and toss off all the men. Not over, off. That's what he said. Toss off all the men in the match, over the top rope, blah, blah, blah. This was great. And then he does the hip dance with Otis and Gable. This was hilarious. I love this. Bryan is just a national treasure. So the next guest was Bianca Belair. She was not there long. It seemed like Bryan went long, so they kind of had to shorten Bianca's time. But she was great. She's coming off a big win over Bayley. She talked about the response to her Chronicle a few days ago and how important that win over Bayley is. And they're really treating that win over Bayley like a big deal, as they should. Bayley has lost a lot in the last couple of months, even while she was champion. But it still means something for someone to beat Bayley as the longest reigning SmackDown Women's Champion of all time. And she acknowledges that she's on top of the world right now, but she wants to get even more eliminations this year in the Women's Royal Rumble, go on to win it all, and etch her name into the WrestleMania marquee as the #1 contender to the SmackDown Women's Championship. So the last people they have on, and I completely forgot about this, was AJ Styles and Omos. Omos or whatever. This was great. So obviously AJ was on SmackDown this week as part of the Brand to Brand Invitational. Who gives a fuck? He was out there for that reason. And then he was on Talking Smack. I forgot he was advertised for the show. And then it didn't dawn on me until maybe about a minute in. The history between AJ and Heyman. Not on air, but rather behind the scenes. AJ is no Heyman fan. He made that quite clear last year. And they kind of acknowledged that here. Heyman acts afraid. He acts very overly respectful towards AJ because he doesn't want AJ to beat him up. He also doesn't want Omos to beat him up either. Omos. Omos? I don't know. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. AJ's bouncer. That's what he calls him. He's less of a bodyguard and more of a bouncer. And Heyman is very intimidated by Omos. He calls him huge, which was funny. And Styles acknowledges that despite being in only now 3 Rumbles, he's never won one. He debuted in the 2016 one. He was involved in WWE title matches at the 2017, 2018, and 2019 Rumbles as both the champion and the challenger on a few different occasions. And then he was in the Rumble last year. So he hasn't won one yet. He's a dark horse to win this year, I would say. And then Heyman does his usual Heyman awesomeness, his usual Heyman excellence, in that he acknowledges that AJ and Roman have history. And he wants everyone gunning for Roman. He has gotten under the skin of Apollo Crews. He has gotten under the skin of Daniel Bryan. He's gotten under the skin of Big E. He's gotten under the skin of literally everybody, including Raw superstars like AJ Styles. He mentions that he and Roman have a history, and that Roman is the impossible mountain that AJ is yet to climb. They've only had 2 matches ever. One being at Payback 2016, the other being at Extreme Rules 2016. I was there for the Extreme Rules match. It was a fucking great match. And Roman won both bouts. They have never had a third match. AJ has never beaten Roman Reigns. So, That would also be a great story. I don't see them doing AJ and Roman at Mania, although that would be great. AJ is a heel right now, which he will probably remain for the foreseeable future, especially as long as he has Omos in his corner. So Heyman acknowledged that history. And he said Roman Reigns versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania is box office platinum. And Styles says, listen, the best part about beating Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, not only what I love, maybe when I win the Rumble, not if, but when I win the Rumble, maybe I'll make my decision next Monday. Maybe I'll make my decision next Friday. But the best part about facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania and potentially beating Roman Reigns, or in his eyes, definitely beating Roman Reigns, third time's the charm, would not only be taking the Universal Championship from Roman Reigns and ensuring he's no longer the head of the table. The best part about it for him would be ensuring that Paul Heyman is out of a job. And I thought that was fucking great because of the history that those two have behind the scenes. Now, on air, Heyman and AJ, I don't think I've ever had an issue. Aside from when AJ faced Brock at Survivor Series 3-4 years ago, that's all I can think of. So clearly, they're making a shoot into a work here with AJ saying, I would hope that you would be fired if Roman loses the title at WrestleMania. He said nothing would make him happier. And then he walked off. Omos was still there, and he just confronted Heyman, and he kind of patted him a little bit, and Heyman looked like he was about to shit his pants. This was fucking great. This was a great episode. Bianca was good. Bryan was awesome. Styles and Heyman was money. Now I want to see Roman Reigns versus AJ Styles. I know I want to see Roman and Edge, and Roman and Bryan, and Roman and Big E, and Roman and this guy, and Roman and that guy. I want to see Roman versus everybody. But now we want to see Roman and AJ coming off of this exchange, if only for more promo battles. Not only between Roman and AJ, but rather Heyman and AJ Styles. But this was great. This was an awesome, awesome, awesome episode of Talking Smack. Definitely make time to go check it out at your convenience before the pay-per-view tomorrow. It clocks in at around 26 minutes. It's one of the longer ones, but it's well worth it. And rightfully so, because everyone was great here for different reasons. So, Talking Smack is the sleeper show of the week every single fucking week. I feel like not enough people are talking about Talking Smack. Get talking about Talking Smack, people, because it's a great show. And this episode was no exception. You can check out more reviews of mine of Talking Smack here on the channel in the description box down below. You can like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Be sure to stay tuned for my SmackDown audio review, which should also be up right now, and my what's going up tomorrow? Day of review for the Royal Rumble 2014. That went up on the network on Friday. That review is going up on Sunday. Tomorrow, they're airing the WWE Icons Yokozuna episode. It actually airs after the Rumble, but you can see it first when it's uploaded to the network at 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning, which is cool. So I'll be reviewing that for Monday. WandaVision Season 1, Episode 4. That review with myself, Phil Lindsay, and Chris Mueller will be up on Monday, too. Tuesday, Raw Talk review, so on and so forth. So if you're not already subscribed, what the hell are you waiting for? Subscribe right now. Content literally every single day, and it has been that way for well over a year now. Never miss a video, never miss a notification. Hit that bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. Have an awesome one, guys. Enjoy the Royal Rumble tomorrow. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.